Today's lesson is section 4.3, writing equations in point-slope form. So we have slope-intercept form, so let's write that down so we don't forget. Okay, and for slope-intercept form, that's y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Hence why they called it slope-intercept. We need the slope and the y-intercept to write the equation of a line. So for today, point-slope form, the two things we're going to need are a point on the line and the slope. So once they give us those two things, we simply substitute it in and we have our equation. Now, like before, they're not always going to say, hey guys, here's your point, here's your slope, and it's going to be super easy. We need to challenge ourselves a little bit. So sometimes they might just give us 2 points and we have to use those 2 points to find the slope. Sometimes they might give us the y-intercept and we have to find the slope using a point. So let's just go ahead, get right into this and see what this formula is, or this form is. So point-slope form, it still has m in it, which represents the slope, and any point on the line. So that's x1, y1. So when we write point-slope form, it's y minus y sub 1. Actually, let me move that up a little bit. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So if you notice, just like slope-intercept form, how slope-intercept form had an x and a y in it, even in our final answer, because remember we would have had like y equals 2x plus 7. I still had an x and y in it. For point slope, I'm still going to have an x and a y. The x1, y1 is where we're going to replace or substitute our ordered pair, and n we will substitute with our slope. Let's take a look at our first example. It says, write the point-slope form of an equation for a line that passes through the point with the given slope. So point-slope form, so I'm going to write what that form is, y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. Okay, here's my ordered pair, x1, y1, and they already have listed -3/2 as my slope. So we simply substitute what we know in. So y minus y sub 1 is 0 equals m -3/2, parenthesis x minus x sub 1, which is -2. Now from this point, we don't want to simplify too much. We just want to simplify basic things that we've simplified before. So I have two negatives side by side. I want to simplify that to a positive. So -3/2 times x plus 2. And I could leave it as y minus 0 to keep it in the form, which I think I will in this case. But technically, we don't have to write that -0. But I'm going to keep it for our purposes right now. That way we can actually see the form. All right, so then that's it. Let's take a look at part B. All right, they gave us a point, so x1, y1, and our slope. So we do y minus y sub 1, sorry, my cat and dog are fighting, equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So we substituted what we know. Y minus 1 equals 4 times x minus 2. All right, I don't have anything here I can simplify. I don't have two double negatives or minus a subtraction or minus a subtraction minus a negative. I don't have any zeros I don't have to write. So that's it. We're done. All right, so take a moment. Pretty sure there's two your turns. So try each of those and then come back and check your answer. So pause the video, work on your turn A, watch the video, see if you did it the same way, and then pause it, work on your turn B, and do the same thing. All right, so there we have both of our answers. Hopefully you guys were able to substitute those values in and get what I got. If not, just look at what I did. I literally just substituted the values in. Excuse me. All right, moving on to example 2. It says write the point-slope form of an equation for a horizontal line that passes through the point 0.5. So I see they gave us a point, so x1, y1, but what they did not give me was the slope. So we need our slope. All right, what they told me though, we had a horizontal line. So a horizontal line is going to be, I'll just draw a horizontal line. It's going to be something like that. And that is when, excuse me, let me draw a little graph here for you. So when I have a horizontal line, that is when every y value is the same. So that is going to be y equals a number. So let's think about this for a second. Really, I don't need to know that the equation is y equals a number. What I need to know from this line, this horizontal line, is what my slope is. So think about in your head for a second what type of slope we have for a horizontal line. If you thought of 0, you are correct. So my m is equal to 0. Okay? Can you tell my animals love one another? All right. So writing this equation, we're going to have y minus 5 equals 0 times x minus 0. We have a whole lot of zeros there, and we're not going to need to write everything. So if you wanted to keep it in slope-intercept form, you could leave it like this, okay? Not necessary, but still, it's an okay answer. But what we could do is we could just write y minus 5 equals 0. Okay, that's also an acceptable answer. And lastly, I would say leave it in one of those two forms if they ask for point slope form. However, I do know that some places will want you to write y equals 5. So all I did was move or add 5 to both sides. So any of these three would be acceptable, especially if it's on the keystone or something like that, okay? All right. All right, so take a second, pause the video, try this next your turn. It's very similar to what we've just done, and then come back and check your answer. Okay, so hopefully you got y plus 4 is equal to 0, all right? All right, so now that we have two different ways to write equations, we're going to sort of compare the two a little bit. That way, you know when it might be easier to use one form and when it might be easier to use another form. And honestly, you could use either form, and you will see that I will continually use slope-intercept form just because that's what I'm accustomed to. That's what my teachers always showed me how to use, but you guys pick whichever one you find suitable for you. So if you are given the slope and 1 point, it is generally easier to use slope-intercept form or point-slope form and then rewrite it as slope-intercept form. So it says for step 1, substitute the values of m, x, and y into slope-intercept form and solve for b. Okay, or it says you may use point-slope form where you just substitute the value of m and let x and y be x1, y1. Okay, step 2, you would write the slope-intercept form using the values of m and b. Okay, so you would just go through and simplify it. If you are given 2 points, those are the 3 simple steps we followed the other day. You had to find the slope, choose one of the 2 points and your slope and write that to find b, and then finally you write your equation. All right, so we have, 2 more examples? Yes. So here's where we're going to start to write all 3 of our forms together. So over to the left here, I'm just going to write all of them down. I'm going to try to write this neat for you. So we have, first of all, we learned standard form. Okay, if you remember back to chapter 3. So standard form was ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c were just numbers. Then we learned slope-intercept form. This is the one all of you kept wanting to do when we were first learning slope. And that is y equals mx plus b. All right, and then finally today, we just learned point slope form. And that is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. Okay, so if they want it in standard form, you want to get your x and your y on the same side. If they want it in slope-intercept form, you want to solve the equation for y. And 9 times out of 10, they will not ask you to rewrite something in point slope form unless that's where you're starting with. All right, so example 3. Rewrite this in standard form. So what I'm going to do is write down what my standard form is. So my standard form is ax plus by equals c. So pretty much I need to get x and y on the same side, so I need to move that guy over there. And you guys actually did this in chapter 3 already. So, I need to move it. I think I said that, but really I need to subtract it because it's 3/4 x minus 5. So that's a positive 3/4. So let me rewrite this. Y equals 3/4 x minus 5. So I'm going to subtract 3/4 x from both sides. All right, now I'm hoping that some of you remember when we did this, this would not be an acceptable answer on your keystone. Remember, there were certain things that we needed to make sure of about our standard form. Like we needed to make sure for our standard form, our a value was positive, which ours is not, and that a value was a whole number. So we can fix that very easily by multiplying everything by -4. Every single term by -4. Okay, when we do that, my two negatives there are going to make it positive. My 4 goes away, so I'm left with 3x minus 4y equals positive 20. And that would be our best answer for standard form. Okay, so take a moment, try the your turn, then come back, check your work. All right, so I did a whole lot of just moving there because I wanted my 2x to remain positive. So I took my positive 8 to the left-hand side, which I did here, and then I needed my my y to be over with the x since they want it standard form, so I subtracted y from both sides. All right, last example, last your turn. So it says, write this in slope-intercept form. Guys, this is probably one of the easiest things to do when we're rewriting. So what I'm going to do is rewrite my equation first of all. And then to get it in slope-intercept form, I just need to solve this for y. That's it. Okay? Well, I solve it for y and simplify. So really, all I would need to do is add 5 to both sides to get y by itself, but I need to simplify this a little bit. So to simplify that, we are going to distribute my 3/4. So it's going to be y minus 5 equals 3/4 x minus 9/4. Okay? Now I need to add 5 to both sides. And guys, don't worry, we can just use our calculator. So do not let those fractions bother you. So I'm going to do negative 9/4, so just 9 divided by 4, plus 5. And then math, enter, enter, and we get plus 11/4. Okay? So there we go. All right, so try the last your turn, and then check your work. All right, so finally you should have gotten y equals negative 3/2x plus 3. Okay. All right, so hopefully that's helpful. And then you guys can go ahead and start your practice work.